We're at day three. This is day three of the 2008 Republican National Convention. We are outside the Crown Plaza Hotel in St. Paul, where all the Texas delegates are staying. And right now we're having a protest here on support big oil companies. And I'm going to have an interview here. And
Ann Wright.
Ann, now can you tell us your name, where you're from, and why you're here?
Sure. My name's Ann Wright. I'm a retired U.S. Army, 29 years in the military, and then I was a U.S. diplomat who served in Nicaragua, Grenada, Somalia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Sierra Leone, Micronesia. I helped reopen the embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan in December of 2000, and then was in Mongolia as the deputy ambassador when I resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq back in March of 2003.
Okay.
And then ever since then, I've been questioning what the administration's doing, not only on the war, on other aspects of it, like the torture and what I feel is an unnecessary curtailment of civil liberties under the Patriot Act. I think we can be very secure in our national security without jeopardizing those fundamental rights that supposedly our country's based on.
Can you tell us why you're here today?
Yeah, today we had a little demonstration out here on some of the aspects of the Republican platform and agenda that we're very concerned about. And this was about oil and about the extraordinary profits that have been made by oil companies, the special favors given by the administration to the oil companies, and at the expense of education, health, and other things that we think should be more the priorities of our country rather than the oil, and particularly the wars for oil.
Yes, ma'am. Now, did you get out? Now, did you force to resign? Or was it your time to get out?
Well, I'd already retired from the U.S. military, and then I was working as a U.S. diplomat in the State Department, and I chose to resign in opposition to the invasion and occupation of Iraq. I felt it was a violation of international law. The United States did not have the authority of the UN Security Council, and it was not an imminent threat to the security of the United States. So. And it didn't have a thing to do with 9/11. So after all these almost 40 years of service to our country in the military and the diplomatic corps, under 8 different presidents, as a career military career civilian part of our government, then I felt I had to resign and then be able to speak out on my concerns on wars, torture, civil liberties, and things like that.
Now, are you doing this full time? Activism against the big oil companies, against our administration right now?
Well, it's kind of turned out to be that way. I've written a book also called The Sentence of Conscience, and I do go around talking about the book and the people in the book. It's profiles of 25 government employees, including our military, who have spoken out on their concerns about the various aspects of the administration policies. Not only our government employees, but we also profile British government employees, Danish and Australian, who have had questions about their government's participation in the war in Iraq and some of the participation in aspects of global war on terror.
Okay. Now, one thing I would like to rebuff is you said you didn't get the permission or authority from the UN, and I disagree, because we should not get any authority whatsoever from the UN. I believe our country should be out of the UN. But the authority that was violated, the authority that we should get to go to war is the United States Constitution. As I'm sure as you know, it is a war that's undeclared, just like all these wars from World War II until now. Now, Scott, is there any questions you would like to ask?
I only have one question. For those watching this on YouTube, someone who's just now finding out and becoming aware of what's going on, is there any particular books or websites besides your own that where you would say someone who's starting out to get them started on getting information about this?
Yeah. Well, I'll plug my book again because we really well documented it. I mean, we've got so many footnotes so people can go to the original sources of where we got our information. And ours is, the name of the book is Dissent, Voices of Conscience, and the website's voicesofconscience.com. And my name is Ann Wright. You can Google any of that. And it does have a lot of resources of mainstream media. I mean, that's where we got it all from. There are a lot of websites that come up that I find useful. I think things like Truth Out, Alternate, antiwar.com.
They're at the Campaign for Liberty rally yesterday.
Yep. So there's a lot of information out there, but you know, it's like everything, it competes with us for our time and energy. And I just want to say that I thank you all very much for what you're doing to try to get new voices into the Republican Party, just like we're equal opportunity protesters. We were at the Democratic National Convention last week in Denver.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, to put on those Democrats, because boy, the Democratic Party has been taken over by folks that don't really listen to a huge amount of people that say that they are Democrats and that they have a different vision of what that party ought to stand for. And I think voices of dissent, voices of challenging the authorities, whether it's Republican or Democratic, are excellent, and we've got to support them, and I wish all the very best.
Well, Miss Wright, as a retired colonel and as a former ambassador for the United States, could we get your opinion on the Council on Foreign Relations and the importance of every president since 1952 being a member of the Council on Foreign Relations? Could we get your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You consider the Council on Foreign Relations to be, you know, one of the premier think tanks of America, and yet if you look at the composition of that, I mean, there are definite agendas that are being put forward by the council members and by the people that staff the council. I appreciate it as a voice, but it's one that you should, I mean, we all should, with everything, take it with a grain of salt and look at behind the scenes what the agenda is of the people that are on the council and what they are saying, what they're writing, what they're researching. So, you know, it's, you know, between the Heritage Foundation, Brookings Institute, RAND Corporation, American Center for Progress, you know, that no matter what line on the political spectrum are, we, the citizens, have to be responsible to really look carefully at what they're saying.
One last question for me. As a retired colonel, as a former ambassador, do you think there's a conflict of interest with the fact that the Constitution, which is there to remove power from government, that the people being restrained by it are now responsible for educating the Americans who are there to protect the Constitution? Do you see a conflict of interest in that?
Well, it is kind of ironic that we say that we're out doing things to provide other people in the world, you know, a similar Constitution that we have here, and yet we are using unconstitutional methods to go about it. And education of folks about what the real Constitution is and the protection it provides for us is critical. And I think sometimes these street demonstrations are some of the biggest teaching tools that indeed it is lawful to be on the sidewalk, to be able to talk, to be able to have a pretty lively demonstration.
First Amendment, right? First
Amendment. It's our obligation to do that, really, our responsibility. And yet other people may be quite offended by the messaging of it. And, you know, I don't want to be gross and, you know, nasty words and stuff like that, but it's the ideas of what we're presenting that are important. And I think in our current society, a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't be able to look at those people out there, you know, throw them in jail. And in fact, you look at what the police are doing right here, boy, there's a lot of repressive police activity here that's over and above what, in my opinion, they need to do for policing for criminal acts. And there have been a few of them that have happened here, and those people that committed the acts of throwing bricks into windows or breaking into police cars, that's wrong, and those people should be apprehended and go through the court system. But we have hundreds of people in the city of St. Paul who have been swept up and have been tear gassed. And while there have been confrontations with the police, but the confrontations were, I mean, I think there's been an excessive use of police force here. That actually, if they had had bicycle cops, you know, the non-threatening bicycle cops who provide law and order all over our communities and do it in a way that people listen to them, rather than having stormtroopers, Ninja Turtles come up with you that have face masks that don't have names on them, who are very anonymous in what they do. They know that they personally don't have any personal liability for bashing somebody's head in. It's the city of St. Paul that will pay as a city. The citizens will pay for the abuses that individual police officers will do. And tragically, I think St. Paul's going to get a lot of lawsuits after these couple of days.
Well, ma'am, there's a lot of talk on the internet community now about something called North American Union, and anyone who tends to bring